good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Syed Muazzam Ali, and I work as Head of Marketing and Admissions at the International School of Shoifat, Lahore. The International School of Shoifat, Lahore is a member of SABIS Network. SABIS Network is active in 20 countries and 5 continents. We have the privilege of teaching 70,000 students across the globe, and with the proprietary education system, we are preparing the students to meet the challenges of a changing world. Today, we have, I welcome you all on the 14th program of Experts Talk to ISC Lahore. It's a series of programs that we have initiated for the audience to spread positivity, knowledge, and to discuss very pertinent topics. Today's topic is importance of quality habits in students' life, and we have a great panel with us today. We have the power couple, Mr. Haseeb Hasan and Ms. Zaufyshan Hasan. They are also known as the power couple, have profoundly touched the lives of 1,000 professionals across 46 countries based out of Dubai in the past 24 years. Mr. Haseeb's acumen in finance and Zaufyshan's background in psychology makes a lethal combination to tackle all the challenges of logic and emotions. Both are sought after business coaches who compel their audiences toward a healthier and happier life. Their CSR is to instill hope and spread positively to every individual who crosses their path. So we welcome you, the power couple, Mr. Haseeb and Ms. Zaufyshan, for the program. And we have Ms. Margot Abdul Aziz with us as well. She is currently the director of the International School of Shoifat, Lahore. Ms. Margot has been in Pakistan for the last 11 years, and before that she worked in the field of management and education in the United States, the Middle East, and North Africa. She holds MA degree in business administration and quality management. At present, she is enrolled in the executive MBA program. So without wasting time, I would like to jump to the question. My first question is towards Mr. Haseeb. So Mr. Haseeb, what is a habit? What do you mean by good habits? And you will discuss in context to a student's life. Over to you, Mr. Haseeb.
All right. So he asked me the most difficult question right in the beginning. All right. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Like me.
Actually, Haseeb, this is the most difficult and the last question. Once answer it, we don't need the program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We can talk about good habits and bad habits, but what exactly is a habit? What do you call a habit?
Yeah.
All right. So that's a very good question. So I actually went to Wikipedia today this morning because I knew you'd be asking me this question. So I have the Wikipedia answer and I have my answer also. So the Wikipedia says a habit is a routine of behavior that is repeated regularly and tends to occur subconsciously. So they're focusing on a repeated behavior. So a habit would be an activity or some kind of a behavior that we over a period of time do so much that it becomes a part of our default mechanism. So it becomes a part of our routine habit. So there could be a goal that prompts me to sort of form a habit, but once I go into repetitive mode, so then the goal takes lesser precedence and I go into more of an autopilot mode. So those are habits, and sort of habits are sort of ingrained into our neural pathways. So this is not Wikipedia, this is my own definition. But yeah, but I think Wikipedia focuses on the behavior aspects. And I have a slight modification to this also, because both of us have been life coaches for 25 years and we've been helping people in breaking through their mindsets and their paradigm shifts and all these sort of things. And we realize that the habit begins in the mind. So this means what? That so there are two kinds of habits. One is mental habits. You may call them psychological habits or habits of the thoughts, recurring thoughts of phobias and fears and all these sort of things, and greed and ambition and so on and so forth. But then again, so there are mental habits and there are physical habits. So the physical habits relates to behaviors what other people can see, but there are habits that other people can't see, apart from the ones that we hide from other people, because most of us like to hide our bad habits from other people, right, Margot? All right.
I'm listening.
Yeah. So I think the habit is a repetitive behavior or a thinking pattern that, if we follow this over a period of time, becomes like a default mechanism, and it goes into autopilot and goes into our neural pathways. So that's a habit. So there are good habits and bad habits that we'll come to later.
Definitely. Ms. Zaufyshan, would you like to add on to something what Mr. Haseeb has said?
Yeah. I would like to bring this perspective from a child psychology point of view as well. When a child is born, they call it, the consciousness is called Tablarasa, which means it's a clean slate. So nothing has been written on it. And these habits start a kind of an inscription on the mind of a child right from the beginning. So habits are kind of a programming that we do ourselves, and the impact of the environment, it makes us develop certain habits. I'm not even talking about good or bad, or the impact of the social structure and the inner cold nucleus family, etc. But as Haseeb said, they are a kind of, it could be rituals, which we can call behaviors done over a period of time. So, that's why the most common thing is, when somebody says, I haven't done that for a long time. So people say, it's like riding a bike. So riding a bike is also a learned behavior. Habits are learned behavior. And the funny part is, we can divide habits into three categories. One is unconscious, that we've done it so many times over, like swimming or riding a bike, or can't sleep without brushing our teeth. Those are the habits that become unconscious habits. Then we have the healthy and the good habits. And then, of course, it's a package deal. We have the unhealthy or the bad habits. It could be anything, even procrastination, bad time management, lack of punctuality. These become bad habits. The main thing is, if we don't introduce it, why should we introduce habits, healthy habits in children? Because it is going to help them maybe 30 years later. At the moment, they may not realize the benefit, but if they are not introduced at a very early age, we see it when we go to organizations. Sometimes we see certain habits that are so obvious to us in executives. And we see, maybe this habit was not introduced at a very early age when they were young, or they had bad role models. So this was my 2 cents on habits, actually.
Wonderful, wonderful, beautiful. Ms. Margot, would you like to build up on this?
Well, I end my 1 cent, hopefully, to that. Obviously, I agreed with everything. And the first thing, of course, obvious, from the definition, wherever you will look, even if you Google, you don't have the same that, this is the action which you practice. You have to practice it over a period of time. But there are two quite, to me, interesting and at times dangerous aspects of the habit. First and foremost, habit is very difficult to give up. Once you have it, it's not easy. Maybe there are some habits, like adjusting your sleeping time, taking, decaf coffee instead of, real coffee, this kind of thing when you are, used to drinking coffee every morning, which becomes a habit. So yes, maybe some of them are not that difficult to give up on, particularly if you have health reasons. But some are extremely difficult, and people need, as we know it, need a professional help in those cases to put their lives back on track. With that, there is also another thing, which I would add it to Zaufy, to the 3 different types of habits. The habit which we basically observe somebody else having and we follow it. It becomes ours as well. For a variety of reasons. We might be, weak character and be followers. We want to be popular, so we're gonna be start doing the same thing like the other person. Or we actually like the habit itself, makes us feel good, attractive, give us happiness, whatever it might be. So there is this kind of a almost, and when you look at the younger children, this is actually what happens. The children observe. They are like sponges. They observe the actions, what is happening, and then they duplicate it.
True.
That's why we have to be very careful with introducing habits. Those longer time or sometimes entire life behaviors and practices, particularly with the young children. So we give them, we put them on the right track. Definitely during their life, they will be, particularly when they are young people and teenagers, they will be exposed to what we call it as a parent, a bad habit. But it will be much, much easier to maybe try it, but not to get into the habit itself. If they are observing and directed into the proper flexibility of dealing with the habits, not becoming, very rigid and all the time saying, no, everybody else is doing this, so I will do it as well. More of a freedom, more of a logical way of looking at it, that maybe that particular habit is not that good for me.
Yeah, true. Very, very well said, Ms. Margot. So moving on to the next question, and my next question is towards Ms. Zaufyshan, because she has explained 3 categories of habits. So could you please pick a few habits and we'll discuss them one by one. Over to you, Ms. Zaufyshan.
Sure. Before that, I'd like to give another concept that, of course, they say bad habits die hard. And, once a habit has been ingrained, what Haseeb was talking about, that a neural pathway has been created. And it is very difficult. But now with neuroplasticity, now they are saying that, once people used to think that it's rigid, you've had, even in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, it's difficult. Yes, it's difficult, but not impossible. And it all comes down to your own motivation. That, like people who are bad eaters, I mean, they've been having junk food all their lives, or coffee, which Margot was saying as well. But if you feel that there needs to be a change, it's their motivation and persistence that they can actually change habits. Now, good and bad habits, I mean, from students' perspective. Now, we were talking earlier on this, that the millennials or the centennials or Gen Z, which are coming up in schools, you cannot introduce or ask them to break a bad habit like our parents used to do. They had a very straight, direct way that, no, this is bad. They would kind of dominate us to change a certain habit. And that's what all the parents listening here, I'm saying, yes, kids can do it, but rather than negative reinforcement, which parents usually use, some kind of a threat, rather than threat, a reward is much better. So it's called minimax. You minimize the negative reinforcement of the children's bad habits, but you maximize on what they are doing good. So let's focus on the positives. That, a child sleeps late, but he still wakes up early and is trying punctuality. So use his good habit to say that you're doing really great, but it's going to have an impact on the bad habit that you have about sleeping late or not eating properly, etc. We need, as parents, we need to choose which bad habits we need to focus on. And parents these days, they focus on studies or academics only. I understand academics are very important, that you don't study. When have you studied, etc. You understand? That is good, but we can also focus on what they are doing right. I mean, last minute studying, they still do it. My urge to most of the parents is that they choose which bad habits they are going to be concentrating on. A child,
Excellent.
he or she is messy, right? Or has bad eating habits, or does not have proper hygiene. So you make a list of the 50 bad habits and then choose 5, 10 smaller goals. Give children smaller goals that they can work on. So if any suggestions of to what kind of bad habits kids could have. What Margot was saying, smoking. Now in college or school, kids start smoking as a peer pressure, right? And parents, just by saying, are you smoking? Don't ever smoke. Don't ever do drugs. Rather than having that approach, a kind of an open communication, a safe space for children to talk about, that is more important than telling them, no, you can't do it. Because that will be just a tip of the iceberg. It will not go down for their acceptability of what the parents are saying. So, of course, parents have more power on their children, but trust me, children would not go towards what they are saying if they are, I told you so. Now, the atmosphere with youngsters is not having that kind of attitude or behavior towards children.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Mr. Haseeb, would you like to add on to something which Ms. Zaufyshan has said?
What are we talking about?
Bad habits.
Okay. I'm just joking.
Or good or bad.
No, absolutely right. See, the thing is that, like, when we grow into adults, and most of us are adults over here, and maybe 50% of the people, if they do watch this video, so they're going to be adults also, or at least at the brink of being an adult. And we need to be aware of also the American Journal of Psychology once published this, and I remember this from many, many years ago when I was doing a lot of research on habits. And they quoted a figure of 43%. 43% of what we do today, our daily routines, is basically habitual.
True.
Now, this was very alarming. And I said, man, 43%, man, wow, man, that's almost 50% of my daily routine is not doing anything new, but following a pattern. So this means that I am very predictable. Whoa. All right. So this shook me up also. And then so so one must have a growth mindset. Most people will develop their habits and they will stick to their habits because that becomes their comfort zones. Now, coming out of that comfort zone and then cultivating and nurturing new activities and habits which add value to us in the future. Now, what's a bad habit? A bad habit is not adding any value to the future. In fact, it is taking our good future away from us. Example that Margot gave, the smoking or drinking or driving fast or thinking negatively or whatever it might be. We all have our own vices, right? But then again, so how do I cultivate a lifestyle? Zaufy mentioned something about a healthy lifestyle. People with heart attacks, when they are in their 40s or 50s, they go to the doctors and the doctor says, you know what? Everything else is okay with your body. All you need to change is your lifestyle.
Very true.
What does that mean? Lifestyle. So habits become a lifestyle. And I think we need to address this issue a lot. That that every once in a while, we need to constantly declare war against the habits that I have. Example, if I always get up in the morning and I open up the newspaper, one day don't pick up the newspaper. If you always get up and call up a friend to ask what is happening, if you always have a habit of opening up your social media as soon as you get up in the morning or before going to sleep, start worrying about something. I mean, these are things. So you have to actually declare war against your own self to recreate yourself. And what better time than 2020 after Corona, when you're going to come out into the masses once again. You need to come out as a new person, a person that you yourself have created. I'm talking to the students here now. A person that you yourself have created and not your parents' creation. You are your parents' creation and the society's creation right now. When have very few students at this age would take a proactive step of formulating the steps of their lives. because nobody even has exposure. And there are not enough people out there who can give people a better exposure. They will guide. If you go for an advice from somebody, they'll give you an advice according to their own framework and their own mindsets and their own belief systems, and their own limitations will actually spill over into that advice for other people. So how do I then sort of like, So, I have very generic concepts about this. One must have creative habits. You must always be creating something. You can either be creating something negative or you can be creating something positive. When you create something positive, then you get rewards for it also. When you create something negative, then punishment and pain comes in our lives. So I think pain and pleasure is a very important principle to follow also in the formation of our habits. I'll talk a little bit more. I think I've spoken for quite a bit right now.
Wonderful. So, Ms. Margot, would you like to pick few habits and discuss them?
I could probably use another 4 hours. Having worked in my life from children who are 3 years old until the students who are almost 25 years old when they are in the 4th year of the university. So a huge diverse community, and also across different countries. And I want to speak about those 2 items. From my experience, and I think this is also the human preference of human nature. If we want to change our own habits, first of all, it takes strength. You don't change because habit is something which makes you comfortable. You don't want to change it. When you are younger, obviously, and when we're talking, we're talking then on the issue of parenting. To change the habits of the child, of a teenager, which we as a parents may think is one of those bad habits. Okay, it is not by saying no, you cannot do it. Well, yes, they won't do it now. 15 minutes later, 2 days later, they will do it behind your back. Okay, they will be repeating it. The task which is very hard is to sit down and talk about it, why this habit is wrong. What are the consequences of continuing with that particular habit? Kids are smart. We don't give them enough credit. But if you talk to them as equal to equal, with respect, they listen. They start to see the bad consequences and the outcomes of continuing on the road they are. And then it's more likely, there is never 100% guarantee, but there is more likely that the change will happen. And through that process, you also have, as on the sideline, you're building trust, which is extremely important, trust between your own child and yourself as a parent. And if you have this trust, changing any habit, even the most difficult, becomes possible. Not always successful, but becomes possible. The second thing which comes, and I'm sure, from Haseeb's and Zaufy's experience as well, people like ourselves, we have to be very careful when we're talking about what is a bad habit, because in many cases, this bad habit is a cultural issue. The bad habit, for example, in Pakistan is to be fashionably late. I wouldn't not get it fashionably, yes, 2 hours, coming to the dinner, when I would be already on a dessert, but the new guests are coming and they're feeling, happy, I'm glad to see you, almost when I'm leaving the house. Anyway, so that habit here is perceived as a normal, proper part of the culture of the society. Okay. Now, the same behavior of being late, let it be to the appointment, to the event hosted by your friends, you can't be late. what we used to say in Europe, particularly in Europe, to be on time, it means you have to be 5 minutes earlier before your scheduled time. So that's a good habit. Put it in this way. And most of it, since the young people are raised this way, obviously everybody is respecting it. And the same here in our country, in Pakistan. You know, the ones we really, as a society, should teach, should help our students change and overcome, despite that for many years, as a culture they be in, we have to start working on it. And working on it not in the kind of a clash between the home, what they see at home, what they hear at home, and the clash what it is expected at school. Because school also, we have a tremendous equally important to academics. Our role is to develop characters.
Very true. Very true.
And characters, well, the habit is a part of the character. It's a preference of doing something. It's a tradition of following something which was happening. Change those, you know, if we work together, parents and the schools, in the calm manner, in a manner which young people expect from us, trust and respect, and having a conversation. They're very much open to the logic. It's very surprising sometimes, but they listen, and you can very often hear after the conversation, when I ask the question, what do you think? Do you agree with it, or you still have a problem? I hardly ever hear I have a problem. Miss, actually, it makes sense. So if it makes sense, don't do it in the future. The question is now that, you know, this is what happens in the school. We need the same thing, the same support from home. Okay? And
very important. Very important.
One thing which let me just finish with one thing, and I thought it was a compliment actually, when the 9th grader told me this during the civic class, and I was talking to them, you know, about the character, etc., you know, loyalty, honesty, you know, empathy for others, you know, all those good things, good habits of behavior of a human being. One of the students says, "Oh, miss, you sound like my mother." And I look at him and I said, "You know what? You have a wonderful mother." Because we both were at the same wave, okay? And I said, "Oh my God, that woman must be wonderful," you know, since she talked to her son the same way what he was getting in the school from me and also other teachers. So, you know, the habits, in my view, you know, just to put it all together, I would put that, you know, a lot of it is cultural. A lot of it is an influence of peers, absolutely. And unfortunately, in many cases, it is a negative influence. But then we can counter it, but not punishing, not, you know, putting those, okay, you know, you're gonna be, you can't be on a Facebook, you can't use your computer for 1 week, you know. So what? He will find some other ways. He won't understand anything. Sit down with your kid, you know, doesn't matter how young or old he or she is, and talk it out.
Very true, very true. Very well explained, Ms. Margot. And I think we have to lead by example as well, because the younger kids, they are smart, they are, I mean, wise, and if we try to push them not to do something, they usually say, I mean, where is your example? Are you doing the same thing that if you're, I mean, I remember my daughter saying this to me. I asked her that please stop using mobile phone or the tablet that you've been using. She said that you've been using the same, I mean, for longer time than me. So it gave me a food for thought that I should change, I should lead by example. And afterwards, what I did, I stopped using my mobile phone in front of her. So obviously we have to lead by example. Moving on to the next question.
Muazzam, one more thing, you know, I think, you know, in our discussion, it also came up. I think Zaufy was the one who sort of, push it a little bit, but I want to say it, really, really openly. We're talking about changing the habits into more positive, which will give us more happiness, more good feeling about ourselves, open us to the more of a people, so we have respect, and we are sought after and popular or whatever it might be. But I think we need to realize, doesn't matter, maybe it's easier a little bit with the younger children. It becomes very challenging with pre-teenagers and teenagers. So between, 12, 13 until 16, 17, any change takes time.
Yeah.
And the same with the habits. You can't change the habits over time. You can't. People feel uneasy. I like it. You're taking away from me something which is important to me. Oh, I know it is not good for my heart, but I am 27-year-old, so what? Nothing is gonna happen. So change needs time and patience and a little bit of a pressure, I think.
Very tight. Appropriate pressure.
Yeah.
So
may I say something, Muazzam, here, because it's very interesting.
Yes,
what was being talked about. Sometimes changing a habit is difficult, but replacing a habit is can work like a miracle. For example, why are they there on their mobiles or tablets? Is because they get a surge of dopamine. I mean, it gives them the happy feeling, which we can get even from chocolate or, So rather than that, introducing certain habits which also give them dopamine, and slowly, first 10% introducing a habit, then 20%, etc. That is a much easier path sometimes.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think, this is something we didn't, and I'm glad it came up. It does when we every day when we work, we try to steer the students, ourselves, all through their friends, through the peer, somebody they like, into what Zaufy is saying, into something else, to change this interest, to change this focus.
Right.
And that's particularly with young people, that's an excellent way of helping them.
Yeah, very true. So let's move on to the next question. My next question is towards Ms. Zaufyshan. How to develop a certain habit? How long does it take for a habit to develop? And the second part of this question is, what is the role of parents in developing good habits, character, and morale in the children? Over to you, Ms. Zaufyshan.
Developing a habit, I mean, when you start to learn a car, and especially a manual car, the gear gets stuck, but you continue on it, right? So there is no hard and fast rule. First of all, to parents, I'm going to say that maybe one child can develop a habit quickly. It's called moment of readiness, or when a child blooms or blossoms into certain habits. So we can't really put a number to it, but there has been that to develop a habit, it's about 21 days.
21 days.
And for the habit to be longer, I mean, to stay and become a part of personality, it's about 40 days or about 6 weeks. And the thing is that persistence comes in that. That, when I talk about 21 days, you do it straight without a break. And if you take a break, the 21 days start again. I mean, when I started meditating, my thoughts would go everywhere because meditation or focus can be very difficult. But then you have to do it there. It starts making those neural pathways. And that's what you want. That the mind finds it very easy to go on that path. And finally, it becomes a part of a personality. And what I said about the second part of the question, role of parents, they have to be good role models. And maybe for a child, it might take longer. I mean, I'm talking about students. Reading is a very good habit, which will stand them in good stead even when they go start working in organizations, because it would help with their communication skills. But if I, as a parent, don't read, or when the kids were young, I didn't read it. My children didn't start reading for a long time, and I thought that, I'm not a good mother, because I used to read to them since they were very young. They were infants every day. And the elder one was like 10, 11 and still hadn't developed. And I said, I'm a failure. But now that they are adults, I see they are very avid readers. So, whatever effort I did, so role models and persistence and a certain kindness. Kids get judged by parents all the time, and that is a kind of negative reinforcement. There has to be patience. Parents have to be patient and devise ways, what is the best way that I can lead a child towards developing good habits and characters. And every nucleus family, I said, have their own set of values. So there are certain values, and then there are certain traits which the kids need to develop now for their future. And what Margot was saying is spot on. Yeah, spot on. They talk to them why. Why do I need to clear up my room? Or why do I need to, make my bed? Making the bed in the morning, introducing to a young child when they can't even pick up the bed clothes, helping, introducing them is a great habit, because the goal of the day has set up early in the morning before even you've stepped out of the bedroom. So, introducing, never giving up. That's what I feel.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Mr. Hasan, would you like to build on this?
Yeah, I would love to build on this. Although, what Zaufyshan says stands, but then again, I can also add my. So the question is how to develop a certain habit. Now, I'm going to come from a different angle. Of course, it is repetition. Of course, it is the number of days that you repeatedly do that forms the habit. But then again, we have to become aware of a concept called why we do what we do. There is always a reward that we are trying to seek. There is always some kind of a satisfaction that gives us through either a bad habit or through a good habit. So what is that reward? So keep that reward in there. So if I tell a child, go exercise, go do a jogging for a mile or 10 kilometers, he says, well, what for? Oh, I'm going to give you a chocolate. All right, now we are talking, because that's a reward. So he has a goal. He has something to look forward to, which is what will prompt him to do this. So to develop any new habit, it's very important to set some goals.
Excellent.
Like a dream, like a goal post, like a mission or a vision as to what I will achieve from this. And then that reward will become the driving force for you to pull towards that habit.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Right? So the focus is not just on the habits. Habits are a side consequence, are a side effect of what we are desiring to do in our lives. So if we don't have any clear positive goals or to do something worthwhile, we are going to fall into bad habits as and when, and those bad habits are very tempting, because eating McDonald's is a bad habit. Sorry, McDonald's guys, if anybody's sponsoring here, or it's a bad habit. Why? Because that has been injected in the people's mind, and the poor innocent children, they have no clue as to what is the driving force. So something known as subliminal perception. So the people think they have a free choice. They don't have a free choice. They have been given a limited choice between KFC and McDonald's and some other brands and so on and so forth. But then again, if you look at it, all these options are bad for you. All these options are bad for you.
Yeah,
So I think you have to fix the right rewards to be able to change a habit. It is difficult to form new habits as we grow older. Now I am going to be 62 in January, and in about a couple of months or something like that. And I now realize that I am also carrying some of the habits with me which are ingrained into my personality, which I did not address myself at a younger age, because I really I could not connect the dots together as to how this is going to impact me. So if the children also if they have a goal in their mind, a dream, a vision, whether they want to be productive or they want to be influencers, they want to do something worthwhile. Every child wants to do something worthwhile. They want to be bigger than themselves, which is nothing wrong in there. Nothing wrong in there. So this is a good thing. But I think habit formation is not impossible. We can form new habits. We can overcome bad habits. The longer I hold on to a bad habit, the more difficult it becomes to leave. No doubt about it. But it is not impossible. It all depends on the willpower that Margot was talking about. And it also depends on how dedicated you are to change yourself about something. Now, normally a person will not change their habits until they are shaken up or they go through a pain in their life, or they go through a pain in their lives. So my request is, why do you want to push yourself to that level where you keep going through pains because of your lifestyle and your bad habits? Why don't you cultivate those good habits now in your life and not be like this regretful, remorseful old man at 62 to look back at his life? So this is your time, buddies, and this is your time to develop the right seeds into your persona and your personality for the future.
Excellent, excellent. And there is another thing. I think the parents right now, they compare their children to others. For example, if they want to refer to a good habit, they see, okay, so XYZ is doing this and you should be doing this as well. So would you like to say about something, Mr. Haseeb? And then we'll move on to Ms. Margot.
Yeah, this is also a big, psychological thing. If the other person's child can do it, why can't our child do it? And they sort of put this additional pressure on the children, and this adds more stress to them. That they might think my child might think that the other guy is a total loser. But I'm giving an example of a person who I don't like or I don't get along with, or so that may not be the right way of when you bring in comparison, then you bring in the ego and low self-confidence in people. And I think as parents, we need to develop the confidence of our people and not to shatter that confidence.
Wonderful. Miss Margot. Yes, Mr. Haseeb, you were saying something.
With the parents, it's like opening the Pandora box in a sense. We can, because the roles of the parents, particularly in the character building, morale, through that, obviously positive. Let's not call them even good, but positive habits. It's very difficult. Remember, the children are part of the family, and they should never be a contradiction in neither talking nor in action between the mother and the father or the other members of the family. And unfortunately, this is what they not observing, they actually going through. I have the mothers who will hide from the father negative feedback from the school about the behavior of a young man. They think they're protecting the child, but actually they're damaging the child.
Yeah, true.
So the harmony in the family, it has to be that the mother and the father, even if they disagree, both of them, how to deal with the child, they should discuss it in private and come with the unified solution, decision to the child, without this kind of an argument and no, you are right, you are wrong, you're taking always his side, when he is, doing this and that. This should not happen in the families. It's not easy. I understand that. It's not easy, but we as a parents, we have a very high threshold to meet when we're raising our children. Another thing, which I would like to also mention, which is connected with that, the first side of feel of the ethical behaviors, moral principles, the children get from home. What a parent says, the parent has to do. If you respect someone, you don't judge someone, and you don't talk bad about this person, and then in the face of this person, you are the best friend ever. Children observe that. They see those contradictions. They start be calculating, okay, if I need someone from this person, I will be nice, because this is what my father, uncle, grandfather is doing.
True.
Okay? And if I don't like someone, I just disregard this person. There is no empathy for people who are less fortunate than they are. The last thing I would like to mention, because this is unfortunately both habit and the part of character, it became a part of the character, which is a very materialistic look of our children at life. And they lost somehow, many of them lost value of work, of achievement, of an effort. The things are, you know, I hear from, even from my grade 12 students, oh, miss, you know, everything will be fine, inshallah, I will do it very well, and I will, you know, be brilliant the moment I finish the university. Well, it does not work like that. Not how many Bill Gates we have. One. John Bezos. One. You know, and we don't have anyone from Pakistan yet at that scale. But the issue of this materialistic and the value of the money from which you can then gain, including the friendships, including the people to consider you, you know, popular and be around you. This is something I found very, very dangerous. And I think both the home, the parents, and we at school as educators, we have to work more on that. The value of work, the respect for the work. Doesn't matter what kind of a work it is. The person who is serving you in the restaurant should be as respected as your mother or your grandmother. It's a human being. You don't judge people by their positions or by how much they are worth in the money. So I think, you know, we have a challenge here, but I'm very optimistic that you know, the more and more, and I think it sounds strange, the credit goes to COVID-19, that finally parents started to see the value of the school and the value of the teachers. And I think I'm very much encouraged that we will be now working much, much closer together. And our kids will be exposed to good habits, wonderful character traits, and we'll be building a better future than we're going to leave them.
Wonderful.
In that future.
Wonderful, wonderful. Moving on to the last question of the program, great panelists. So, how to do a self-analysis that a habit is good or bad? For example, sometimes it's being said that the people who go late to the bed, they are creative, for example. So how would you, suggest that how to do a self-analysis that a habit is good or bad? Over to you, Ms. Zaufyshan.
As it's the last question, I would like to, rather than saying if it's a good or, every habit can be good or bad. Punctuality is a good habit, but somebody who stresses out so much, or, every habit, there is the good thing to it and the bad side to it as well. So I'm just going to go a list of the habits which are required to be a successful person overall.
Excellent.
It could be, again, honesty, what you were talking about, or trust. I put them in the same category. But maybe some families say that, no, you should not trust people. It all boils down to your core, which is deep into our subconscious, are the parents and the teachers as well. I sometimes feel that it tips the scale. Teacher sometimes has a more of an impact of how she introduces certain things as well. So proactive, if a child is proactive, he or she will not be lazy. So rather than concentrating on laziness, proactivity and self-awareness, if you bring self-awareness into a child early in life, they themselves will judge whether they have good habits or bad, because it happens for adults, it can happen for teens as well. You want to say something?
No, carry on.
Setting goals. We make decisions for children. Children come to me sometimes for advice and say, my parent says, you choose these subjects in O levels and A levels because you have to be that. if it's about such an important decision, setting goals, no child is given. I mean, even choice of a restaurant that they can go, or the vacation that they need to do. So giving them a habit of setting goals, time management through smaller little efforts per day, prioritizing, giving them deadlines. Parents say, you have to sleep. It's 8 p.m. No, say how much time before you can sleep. Give them a deadline. I'm giving you 5 extra minutes, etc. Empathy.
Excellent.
Once they develop empathy, they can be better team leaders as well. Reading, listening, creativity, keep reinventing themselves. Exercise. Oh my God, first you feed them all this junk food and then you don't even bring in exercise. So go for a family walk or do a jogging while you're watching television, etc. Have a chore chart. If you have domestic help, and how you treat your domestic help is going to be how they will treat their juniors or when they become CEOs of organizations as well. Self-discipline, leadership, let them take charge. Most important are to let them have a pattern of gratitude. Every morning, maybe at meal times, have a gratitude list. Discuss it over the table. That, okay, so what are we grateful for today? Study routine, then hygiene. Body hygiene is so important to introduce at a young age. Brushing teeth, but showers every day. I mean, I see it. It's so unfortunate. Sometimes I see it so much later. And of course, introducing spirituality through either meditation, etc. It will help them in the long stretch. So these are the good habits.
Excellent. Mr. Haseeb, would you like to add on to something which Ms. Zaufyshan has said?
Yeah, she's given a very elaborate list.
For me, please.
Sorry?
Leave something for you. All right. So I'll be very brief. So I'll have the last, because we want to have the closing by Margot, because Margot the Queen. We need Margot the Queen. Yeah.
So
now I'm gonna get here into a bad habit. I will start to believe it.
Very good. No, we must. Next time, whether we come to Lahore or you come to Bhurban, Margot, we must indulge in some bad habits together and laugh about them.
Yes, please. Yes.
Wonderful.
It's gonna be wonderful.
So, yeah, I would like to add a couple of things over here. One is that you guys were talking about the parents' point of view, and I want to share something, and I want to give a message to the parents.
Please.
The message to the parents, and I'm talking to the parents now. Bad habits in your children that come from you will become your painful karma in your old age. This is so true. The bad habits that we pick up from our parents become a nightmare for the parents, because in our old age, we can see a reflection of our own selves in the shape of our children. And by that time, it is too late. So one goes into remorses and regrets. Why didn't I think or prevent this beforehand? I am responsible for this also impact on my children's life. So this is the self-analysis that parents go through a lot in their old ages. I'm not talking about that, some people go, almost everybody goes through this self-analysis in their old age. And I know it for a fact. All right. From a child's point of view, you said how to do self-analysis, that a habit is good or bad. Very, very, very good question. Every night, children, my life is over, but yours has just begun. All right. So yeah. So every night when you are about to go to sleep, when you close your eyes, the whole day revolves like a picture, like a vision in your mind. And that is the time to ask yourself this question: what is my good deed of the day? What is my good deed of the day? What is my bad deed of the day? Do a little bit of self-analysis, take a decision for the future, resolve that issue. Don't keep it unresolved in your mind, because unresolved issues become habits over a period of time, psychologically speaking. If you resolve them on a daily or a regular basis, the chances are that you'll start questioning every time you're about to go into an activity or a thought, which is at a higher level, you will start asking yourself a question. Is there any value addition for me by going into this practice or behavior or thinking? If yes, go ahead. If not, no value addition, why should I go there? What am I getting out of this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Ask yourself this question. Why are you doing what you are doing? If you can become aware of your own self, on top of yourself, objectively speaking, minus your emotions, keep your emotional brain on the side, bring in your logical mind, boys and girls, and sort of like start analyzing whether you are in the right direction or not. Your parents, your teachers are not going to be there forever. Sooner or later, you will have to take charge. Sooner or later, you will have to take charge. And the sooner you can take charge about your own actions, be responsible for them, and not blame your parents or anybody else for the things that are not being provided to you in the manner in which you want them to be. So you'll have to make you'll have to make choices on a daily basis as to what you should be spending your time in. So that's very important as a self-analysis.
Excellent. Very, very well explained. Ms. Margot, would you like to add on to this a bit briefly?
Yes, and I will go more into the issues of a well-being, I would call it this way. Give your body and mind a very good, healthy breakfast every day. That's a good start for the successful and positive day. Have a positive attitude. Always remember that even in a bad day, which we all have, when none of the things goes the way we want to, it is only one day. Tomorrow is another day, and the things will go well. Always, as much as possible, surround yourself with the people who are positive, full of passion, and full of energy. Not the ones who are already dwelling on the past. Past is past. You cannot change it. You can learn from it, but you cannot change it. So don't dwell on it. Take the lesson, live today, and look with huge anticipation towards tomorrow, to your goal. So I think this is very, very important. Give yourself a break. Probably observing the parents and the family members, you can see, those 14, 15 hours work. Yes, there is a time for work. There's a time for relaxation and doing something you want to do, or basically be lazy. Okay? So give yourself occasional break. I am against, and actually research supports me, I'm against multitasking. Don't do 5 things, 6 things at the same time. That's a concentration killer, but even worse. You get stressed out, you get actions because, this is supposed to be done and I'm late here. This one is done in half. I finish only that. No. Do one thing, you prioritize. Remember, not everything priority is urgent or important. Okay? So you have to start learning, which things you need to do things. Take care of yourself, be active physically, do whatever you like. And I would say, look always forward. The day which passed, even today, you've done whatever you've done. Was it positive? Was it everything like you wanted? It's gone. Like Haseeb said, the best thing is reflect on it. So tomorrow you do it very much better. And always, I think we all agree, have a respect for people, for other people. Love, care, respect.
Beautiful. So with this, I would like to conclude this program. Although this is a treat for all of the audience to listen to such a great panel, but because of the limitation of time, we have to conclude this program. I would request the panel to please stay because we'll be ending up the broadcast here, but we'll spend 2 or 3 minutes after the broadcast. So for the audience, I would like to thank you for being around. If there are any questions, please write in the comments box so that we can answer them. At the end, I would like to thank the panelists. I would thank Ms. Margot, Ms. Zaufyshan, Mr. Haseeb for taking time out of their busy routine. We will come next week with another panel, with another topic. Until that time, please take care of yourself, be safe, and Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Bye.